Hey Willian, it's your manager William. How's it going? Good to hear. Anyways, wanted to follow up with you. I've been calling around. There's a lot of interest that's been generated since you started blacking out your Nikes. Nike's not happy about it, but we've got a lot of good offers from a bunch of different brands. But one in particular is willing to pay you basically exactly what you want. Huge money. I think it's going to be hard for you to turn this deal down. No, the deal is basically done. We just need your approval. But there's one thing. No, it's not a big deal at all. It's just one thing. You're a pro. You'll be able to deal with it no problem. It's the boots. No, it's not like they're not ugly. I think they look okay. I mean, they're gonna grow on you. It's not a big deal. But they have a zipper, like a zipper, like zip, like on your pants, like a zipper. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. So it's just as. So no. What's going on, guys? Josh from soccerreviewsforyou.com bringing you a video today to discuss Willian, who plays for Chelsea as well as the Brazilian national team, recently starting to black out his Nike Mercurial Vapor 11s. He's been signed with Nike pretty much his entire professional career, but is he on the verge of leaving for another brand, or will he end up re-signing with Nike? We're going to talk about that in today's video. Also, if you guys enjoy the boot spotting videos on the channel, don't forget to support this one with a like. So like I mentioned, there's not a lot of backstory to this situation because as long as Willian has been a pro in the spotlight, he's had a Nike boot deal, specifically wearing the Mercurial Vapor. Up until very recently, he's been wearing the latest colorway of the Vapor 11 in the ice pack color like I have right here, but obviously he started blacking out his shoes, which tells us two different things. One, that he's no longer in contract with Nike, and two, he's not looking to give anybody any free advertising. This is pretty normal stuff for these big name players when their boot contracts expire. However, why did he let his contract expire? Does he no longer want to wear Nike products? Is he looking to switch into a different brand? Well, there are a couple different possibilities, of course, but if you ask me which one is most likely, I personally think that he is most likely going to re-sign with Nike. But if that's the case, why wouldn't he just re-sign prior to his deal expiring? Why would he wait for it to run out and go into this blackout phase? Well, let's talk about that. So if I think Willian is most likely going to re-sign with Nike rather than switching to another brand, why wouldn't he just re-sign in the first place and not go into this out of contract phase where he's blacking out his shoes? Well, the reason for that is because this blackout phase in 2018, in the age of social media, has become more or less a bargaining chip for these big name players. Because guess what? As soon as a guy like Willian starts blacking out his shoes, people immediately pick up on that and notice it. It gets posted all over the internet. And what that does for a guy like Willian is it shows the power of his influence to all of these brands, not just Nike, which is a big deal because after all, that's what they're paying in these endorsement deals for. They want people to notice the shoes that these big name players are wearing. So as soon as a guy starts wearing blackouts and people start noticing, again, it's a perfect example to all of these brands at how much power this guy has, how much influence this guy has. So in the case of Nike not necessarily wanting to re-sign him right away, the reason for that is probably because Willian and his manager wanted too much money than what Nike was willing to pay at that particular point in time. And it's entirely possible that the two sides are still in negotiations in terms of making some kind of resolution and re-signing with the brand. However, because he is now out of contract, he has the opportunity to go talk to a brand like Adidas or a brand like Puma or any other major brand that would be willing to pay him a significant amount of money. For a smaller brand, I think a guy like Willian would be a pretty major signing. So that's still on the table as well. However, when you look at this from a value perspective, for the brand itself, Willian plays for Chelsea, who wears a Nike kit, and he also plays for the Brazilian national team, who also wears a Nike kit. And when you consider the timing of this deal, basically leading up to the 2018 World Cup, where he is going to be a major part of that Brazilian national team who wears a Nike kit, and really historically, the Brazilian national team, most of the players on the field are Nike endorsed athletes. I think it just makes sense for Nike to keep this guy in their roster of endorsed players. Again, it's entirely possible that a brand like Adidas, just out of spite, would offer more money and he would go for that, because I definitely expect Willian to sign with the brand that's going to pay him the most amount of money. I don't think that a brand like Nike is going to offer him any kind of signature athlete status. If you consider, again, the two clubs that he's playing for, Chelsea, they already have Eden Hazard as kind of their main face for that particular team, also part of the Mercurial line. And then for obviously Brazil, Neymar is going to be the main face, again, part of the Mercurial line and definitely for the Brazilian national team. So I don't think there's too much possibility for Willian being a major star within the Nike brand, but I'm not sure that's necessarily what he's even after. Would he be a major star if he was part of the Adidas brand? Again, I'm not really sure, but I think for Nike, in terms of having that branding power of being able to associate a player with a product, as well as the kit, the team that he plays for, all being part of the same brand, there's a lot of value that a lot of people don't necessarily consider. Whereas if he were to sign with Adidas, they wouldn't necessarily be able to make a Willian ad unless he was just wearing some random Adidas training gear, because they wouldn't put him in the Nike Brazilian national team kit, and they wouldn't put him in the Nike Chelsea kit either. So again, that's where when he's outside of Nike, it doesn't make quite as much sense. Just to argue the other side of things, I wouldn't necessarily be surprised if Willian ended up signing with another brand. However, I ultimately think he's going to sign with the brand that's going to pay him the most amount of money. Whether that's Nike or somebody else, I'm not 100% sure. I just think from a value standpoint, Nike still makes the most amount of sense, which is why they'd be willing to pay him the most. However, if we're gonna speculate about other brands that he might sign with, I'm not sure that Adidas makes the most amount of sense. Obviously, they would have the money to pay him, but they already have a lot of endorsed athletes. And again, he's playing for 2 Nike teams. I'm not sure it makes the most amount of sense for them, or that at least that they would be willing to pay whatever crazy amount of money that I'm sure he wants. Puma, on the other hand, I actually think makes the most amount of sense. I think he would bring a lot of value to that particular brand, considering that it is a World Cup year, which is a big deal for any major soccer brand. And Puma is already going to start at a disadvantage because Italy did not qualify for the World Cup. Italy being their biggest national team kit sponsor, and also one of the teams that sells more jerseys than any other team in the tournament period. And because they're not in the tournament, they miss out on all of those jersey sales. And it's just a big part of their marketing budget that is completely useless during basically the entire year. So to sign a guy like Willian, who is a big name free agent player out there that's going to be playing for the Brazilian national team, all eyes are always on Brazil during any World Cup tournament. I think definitely he could bring a lot of value to the Puma brand in terms of, again, having those kids watching the tournament, watching a guy like Willian and saying, hey, he's wearing Puma, maybe I should go wear Puma as well. Is it possible that he'd sign with a smaller brand like Under Armour or New Balance? That's definitely possible. I think it's unlikely because he would demand quite a lot of money. I'm not sure that these smaller brands would necessarily be willing to pay them. And when I say smaller, I mean smaller in the soccer world. Obviously, Under Armour is not a small brand, neither is New Balance. But again, I think the amount of money that a guy like Willian is probably demanding is probably not what those smaller brands are willing to pay. But for me, if he were to leave Nike, I think Puma would probably make the most amount of sense. But again, I think just based on the circumstances, based on the financials of this situation, Nike is probably more likely who he's going to sign with. Anyways, guys, that is pretty much it for this situation. Leave your thoughts down below in the comments. Do you think Willian's gonna re-sign with Nike? Do you think he's gonna sign with somebody else? Why or why not? Really curious to hear your thoughts and opinions on this topic. And as always, if you have any questions as well, leave that down below in the comments and I'll do my best to get an answer out to you as soon as I possibly can. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to support it with a like. Subscribe if you haven't already for daily videos on all the latest and greatest soccer gear, including occasional boot spotting videos like you just watched. All my social media information is linked in the description as well. And other than that, guys, hope you enjoyed the video. And as always, thanks for watching.